This fiat currency supply expansion cannot continue forever. As layers continue to accumulate in round after round of quantitative easing, people are implicitly taxed harder and harder through price inflation, and trust in the currency becomes diminished. Like Hemingway said about bankruptcy, this happens gradually at first, then suddenly, as inflation gives way to hyperinflation. At this point, the central bank master has pushed his fiat slave citizen too hard, like to the edge of his economic livelihood. Now we can compare these pyramid schemes to Bitcoin, but to do so it's important to realize early adopters of any money always benefit disproportionately to later adopters. But unlike the unknowable supplies of fiat currencies, which are vulnerable to political corruption, Bitcoin has a universally known and incorruptible supply of 21 million. For fiat currencies, the early adopters, quote unquote, are perpetually always those with access to the printing press. They're always first in line for new money. This is a positional asymmetry that makes the entire game unfair. For Bitcoin, early adopters are those smart enough to realize it is the most superior form of money the world has ever known. It's more divisible, more durable, more recognizable, more portable, and more scarce than anything we've ever had as money. The absolute scarcity of the Bitcoin digital gold pyramid increasingly outcompetes fiat currency pyramid schemes as they grow comparatively taller and less trustworthy through supply expansion. Eventually, these proverbial houses of cards collapse into the transparency and certainty of Bitcoin. Whether or not it is understood by market participants at any moment, it is the known that serves as protection against the unknown in the sphere of money. In the 19th century, the American pragmatists defined truth as the end of inquiry. And in the digital age, the windows of perception have become exponentially multiplied, casting this light of inquiry into prismatic and interpenetrating patterns like never before. This multi-perspective quality of digitized existence is an accelerant to the truth-finding function of free markets. Just consider the role of digital tech in the Arab Spring uprising, WikiLeaks, and most recently the George Floyd protests worldwide. In 1965, when Martin Luther King led a protest of unequal voting practices in Alabama, police violently attacked activists as they marched. Although many events similar to this one had happened before, this one was televised, and that made all the difference. With the eyes of the world watching police brutalize peaceful protesters in real time, the U.S. government was soon pushed to pass legislation ending racial segregation and voting discrimination. The truth is that thousands of tragic stories like George Floyd's have unfolded over time, but the distribution of his via social media sparked a global outcry against police brutality. And it's disgustingly, George Floyd's crime was the same crime that the Fed perpetrates by the trillion. These numbers, million, billion, trillion, easy to say, fun to rhyme, hard to understand. So in the past 5 months, the Fed has counterfeited $3 trillion. And for a sense of scale, the last $3 trillion took the Fed over 5 years to counterfeit. So we've accelerated the rate of US M2 money production 12x this year. Before that, the last $3 trillion in the 20th century took the Fed almost 20 years to counterfeit. So the moral of the story is the US dollar pyramid scheme is getting taller and less trustworthy at an accelerating rate. And remember, every US dollar is proof of time stolen. It does not add any wealth to an economy. You're just confiscating assets every time you print money. Remember, society always slides towards slavery when a privileged few are able to counterfeit the money that the rest of us are forced to use. As such, a free world is forever beyond reach until central banking is eliminated. And as sickening as it is ironic, George Floyd was pressured to use a counterfeit $20 bill precisely because of the Fed's counterfeiting operations. Again, the economic character of money directly influences our morality. Fiat currency pyramid schemes are premised on this proof of theft. This pushes people to rent, seek, steal, and deceive others just to make ends meet. George Floyd was a fiat slave victim of the Fed. So by buying Bitcoin, you are participating in a global protest against state-controlled currency counterfeiting schemes in a way that politicians cannot ignore, because the way you spend your money is the one voice that they cannot mute. They have to pay attention to it. Buying Bitcoin is an expression of the Gandhian sacred duty we must all uphold in the face of lawlessness and corruption. Bitcoin is a weapon of peace. It's an assassin's dagger plunged into the heart of time theft, once and for all. In this way, Bitcoin goes well beyond just finance and economics. As Jordan Peterson says, God is expressed in the truthful speech that rectifies pathological hierarchies. I consider Bitcoin to be the ultimate expression of truth, giving rebellion to central bank, the pathological hierarchy that we call central banking. Or as Benjamin Franklin put it, rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. So in that sense, I consider Bitcoin to be a gift from God. Thank you.